What's up, YouTube? It's your girl, Empress Goddess 22. I'm not back with a reading. I'm back with a little story time. Okay? Because at this point, I got to get this off my chest. Okay? So, let's fast forward, rewind to 2012. Okay? November of 2012. So, I was staying out of town in Elkhart, Indiana. Okay? So, a friend of mine, associate of mine, because she's not a friend, after everything came to me. She's really not a friend, but long story short, my brother used to date this girl. I'm going to just call her Tasha. Okay, so my brother used to date Tasha for like maybe 5, 6 years before this incident happened to me. So, like I said, again, I thought that was my friend, but she really wasn't. So, okay, Tasha stayed in Joliet. Okay, so I came from in town, 2.5 hours away to Chicago. Met up with my associate Tasha, and we went. She was having a a gathering at her house. So we goes to the gathering. Okay, and soon as like I'm gonna say 5 minutes after we got to the gathering, like that, it's beds in Joliet. Okay, it was a bed in the hallway. She stayed in like a tall gated building or whatever. Long story short, it was a bed in the hallway. So we swinging the broom, we swinging everything, trying to get the bed out of the hallway to go back out the window. But that never happened or whatever. So I end up going back in. Okay, so Tasha like, you want a drink? And then, I'm not a drink at this point. So I'm like, just a little. And she was like, okay. So she made me up a drink. So I'm sipping a drink, like literally sipping the drink, because again, like I said, I wasn't a drinker. So I'm sipping the drink, not too much. So we chilling, listen to the music. So some more guests came in. Okay, these are some guys, like 3 guys or whatever. One of them, she said, was her uncle. One of them was his best friend, and I guess the other one probably was the best friend cousin or the best friend brother I don't know. Long story short, it was 3 of them. It was other people there already, but these 3 people that came in, they stood out. Okay, because first of all, they looked older than what we was, but they really wasn't. That's how old these guys looked. Okay, long story short, again, I'm still sipping on this little drink that Tasha made me. I'm not a drinker, but when Tasha came back in from letting her company in from downstairs, she was like, oh, this my uncle, this his best friend, and this whoever, I forgot. Because at this time, I'm feeling drunk or something. I'm feeling hot. I'm feeling like something ain't right. Like, I know I don't drink, but I know I'm supposed to feel like this after a drink. Long story short, I was hot. So in Tasha's house, like I said, she stayed in one of them high-rise buildings. So the window was open. Okay, so I sat in front of the window because I'm hot. I told y'all I started having hot flashes. I'm getting hot. I'm trying to I put the drink down because it's like, okay, that's enough of the drink because I'm getting hot and woozy or whatever. Long story short, I end up passing out, going to sleep. But that's what I remember me doing, sitting on that couch and never moving again. Okay. Now, fast forward, the next morning, I'm hearing voices while I'm asleep. I'm hearing these voices. They laughing, they talking. I'm not really hearing clearly what they saying, but I know I'm hearing voices, so I know somebody here still with me. So I get up and I'm looking around now because I'm no longer in the front room where I was at on the couch. Okay, I'm looking around. I'm in her son room, and I come out the room. Now Tasha in the front room, her uncle, his best friend. The other guy not with them no more. I guess these the only people stayed over. Okay, so I asked Tasha, like, damn, how the fuck I get in your son room? And she go, you walk back there. You and my uncle. And I'm like, what? Because remind y'all, I don't know this uncle. Yeah, I've been knowing her for years, but I don't know this uncle. So I'm like, girl, stop playing with me. And she, she telling me like, I ain't playing. She laughing and shit. But at this point, I'm irritated. I'm really ready to go home because that drink something about that drink wasn't right. Okay. So I go home. Well, I'm like, I'm ready to go. So at this moment, the uncle like, okay, I'm about to ride back that way. I drop you off if you going into the city. And I'm like, okay, cool, like that. Now, this before I know anything's wrong with me, anything. Like, so I go home, go to my grandma's house in the city. Excuse me. I end up getting my kids and we going on our way back home. So fast forward. I talked to Tasha maybe 2 or 3 times since the gathering at her house, which was weird because we normally talk every day. So, every day. So, I get back home. I'm living my life, Almost a month go by, and I'm noticing my titties is hurting. And I'm like, wait, why is my boobs hurt? Like, because I'm single. I ain't did nothing. Why is my boobs hurting? Okay, so fast forward a week or so or two more weeks later, my period, it didn't come. So I'm like, what the hell? Because I know I ain't crazy because it's like either this is a miracle pregnancy or I got pregnant like Jesus mama. Like, ain't no way I'm pregnant is what I'm thinking, right? So long story short, another week go by. So I go to the doctor because at this moment I'm tweaked out because the night of her gathering is playing in my head now. So it's like, okay, she gave me that drink, passed out. She claimed I went to the room with her uncle, which I don't recall doing so. I'm like, nah, something ain't adding up. So when I get back from the doctor and I get a test saying that I was pregnant, I called Tasha. I'm like, Tasha, girl, I'm pregnant. She like, what? She laughing though. And I'm wondering what the fuck is funny because I ain't even get to tell her all of the I ain't even had sex type things. So I'm trying to figure out where the fuck the joke at. Long story short, I ended up telling her like I'm pregnant. Then she was like, what? She's like, I'm gonna call you right back. And that was weird, that was strange, but whatever, So I'm still trying to think. So she ended up calling me back and then she was like, girl, for real? I'm like, yeah, or whatever. Okay, and I'm like, what? I'm like, didn't you say your uncle, that was your uncle at the party? And I went in the room with him. She like, yeah. I'm like, can you send me his number so I can shoot him a text real fast? She like, cool. She sent me the number. So I text him like, yo, this Tasha friend from the party, I don't know you like that, but she saying we walked to the room together. I'm like, how did I get in that room? And he laughing. And he like, LOL, you walked back there. And I'm like, I don't remember walking back there. I'm like, I fell asleep on that couch. He was like, nah, you walked back there. I'm like, so what happened back there? He like, nothing. Why you say that? He was like, you was drunk or whatever, or passed out. So really ain't nothing happened. I'm like, so you never touched me? He like, no, I ain't touch you. Okay. So, okay. It's like, damn, now I'm thinking like, who the fuck? How the fuck? If he ain't touching me, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? So, long story short, I slowed down on Tasha because I'm feeling like Tasha drugged me now. Okay? So I ain't talking to Tasha. Then just one day out the blue, like, I end up talking to Tasha again. And she was like, girl, my uncle said you pregnant. And I'm like, why your uncle will tell you that I'm pregnant if he don't know nothing about the pregnancy? You know what I'm saying? He claimed he never touched me. So how can he tell you that I'm pregnant? Or whatever. She's like, that's what he said you called and told him. Or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, because I'm wondering how I get from that front room to your son room. And she was like, you walk back there steady laughing. And I'm like, nah, Tasha, stop playing. I'm like, I'm dead ass. Like, because I feel like your uncle did something to me. She was like, what? I'm like, yeah, I feel like your uncle raped me or basically had sex with me without my knowledge. She was like, nah, my uncle wouldn't do nothing like that. My uncle wouldn't do nothing like that. I'm like, well, I'm keeping this baby because when this baby come out, I want a DNA test. Because if your uncle touched me while I was under the influence and not alert, then that's another thing. And then she was like, oh, nah, he ain't gonna be the daddy. If he say he ain't touch you, he ain't touch you. Okay, cool. Let's fast forward. So now I'm about to go in labor and have this baby. So Tasha, I called Tasha like, I'm at the hospital, at Roseland. I'm finna drop the load. Woo woo. She like, okay, I'm about to call my uncle. And I'm steady like, well, why the fuck you steady talking about you gotta call your uncle when he don't have nothing to do with this? So he say, okay? So she like, I'm just, just calling my uncle to let him know that you having a baby. And I'm like, why? Like that. So, okay, fast forward, I had a baby. Okay, so Roseland so ghetto. Roseland Hospital so ghetto because it's like, I just had a baby, but it was like, I need to go outside and smoke. And they was like, well, you can go downstairs and smoke. So I'm still in my gown and I go downstairs, me, my little sister, and my daughter, Goddaddy. I go downstairs to smoke. And I catch her uncle leaving the hospital. So I'm like, hey. He turned around and I'm like, what you doing up here? He was like, nothing, I just came from down there, acting as if he wasn't there. So I'm like, oh, okay, like that. And then he kept going about his way. Long story short, after I finished smoking, I goes back into the hospital. So now I'm asking the nurses on my floor, like, did somebody come up here to see my child? And she was like, yeah, it was a guy. He didn't, pick her up or nothing. He just came in and looked at her through the nursery window. And I'm like, what the hell? Why the fuck would he be lying about? So now it's coming to me now, y'all. Now I'm like, this nigga done rape me, or this guy done rape me, they drug me, to do some shit. So now I'm on that, okay? Long story short, he denied my baby all the way up until she was born. He denied he ever touched me and all of that. Woo, after bam. So again, now I'm still trying to replay everything up in my head, because now it's like, now I need to go report this guy, okay? But then, let me tell y'all what's so funny. He ain't my baby daddy, but he goes and open up a court case in DuPage County, Wheaton, Illinois, for 50-50 custody. And I'm thinking 50-50 custody, because I end up, finding all this out after everything happened. So overall, he opened up a court case for 50-50 custody. Okay? I never was receiving any letters about going to court or nothing. Basically, once I found out about court, after it was already too late and court was over, and I gave this guy my child, because I know that, this was her daddy, because she's looking like them, okay? So I came to Chicago to meet up with him for the little DNA thing, like the swab or whatever. So he like, let me take her with me, because, I got to go get my son and this and that. He like, and I'll bring her back like that. And I'll do the swab and shit while we gone. I'm like, cool. Okay. So he ended up, I guess, doing the test or whatever. He already knew it was his child, because remind y'all, I just said he had a court case open. I never knew about. So long story short, I had her in August. He opened up the court case, they say, in December of 2013. And it lasted until like May of 2013. Now, by this time, he done basically like, oh, nah, yeah, we did. You was all over me, making it seem like I was all over him that night. But I know I wasn't, because I know I went to sleep on that couch. So it was like, that don't make sense, okay? Long story short, I felt like, okay, by me not being a drinker, I was doubting myself, like, well, maybe I was. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I really can't say. So long story short, I end up allowing him to visit my child. So he opened up this court case, but was telling the people that he was giving me letters that I never received. So one day I came to Illinois, Chicago, for the Mother's Day holiday, Came up here, gave him my child for the weekend. When he pulled away, he texted me papers saying he had sole custody of my child. Okay? Now I'm going crazy. I'm hysterical. I'm screaming. I jumped in my car. I'm flying down Halsted because I'm trying to catch this nigga with my baby. Okay? Never found them. So I called the police. They told me, well, ma'am, you gave her to him for the weekend. You have to wait till Sunday to see if he returns her. If he doesn't, Monday morning you go down to the courthouse to see if any of the documentation is real, since I didn't have anything from the court to know that this was real. So I'm like, okay, but at this time I'm losing my man, y'all, because this is my baby. You know, a baby, I don't even know how she got here. Well, I kind of figure how she got here, but long story short, this is my child, okay? A child that he claimed he never touched me, or claimed that now all of a sudden, first he claimed he never touched me. I was out of it. Then he say, I walked back there with him, I was all over him, we did whatever we did. But why did you lie, okay? Trying to cover your ass. Long story short, this fool ended up being my baby daddy, okay? Now let's fast forward. Tasha called me and she like, his baby mama looking for you. And I'm like, his baby mama? I don't know this lady. Why is she looking for me? She like, she heard he got a child with one of my friends. So, you know, she looking for through all my friends like that. And I'm like, that's weird as hell. So this girl ended up inboxing me from a different page saying all type of weird shit. And it's like, lady, calm down. I don't even know you, okay? I don't even know your baby daddy, okay? All of this shit is weird to me, okay? Long story short, he ended up taking my baby. And she was 10 months at the time when he got her. Here it is. She's 9 years old today. And I still doesn't have my child back, okay? That's how fucked up the system is. That's how grimy these men are. You have to protect yourself. You have to watch yourself. Don't accept drinks from nobody, okay? I don't give a fuck how long you been knowing them. Because like I said, this girl, I knew Tasha for like 5-6 years before I went to her house to this party because my brother used to date her, okay? So I'm going to stop here, but I'm going to come back with a part 2 to finish it off to let y'all know how it is 9 years later and my child is still with this guy, okay? So stay tuned. I'll be back with a part 2.